Oi, you. It's time for another episode of Dorothy and the Dealer. Let's tune into the conversation.
So we have with us today Sasha
McCorn.
You literally said to me, it's pronounced like Mac and corn.
McCorn,
as in corn of the cob. It's great to have you on here, Sash. We really appreciate you coming in and spending some time. And we're excited about this interview because I think from our side, we've seen a lot of how your life has transformed and turned around and how very responsibly you grabbed hold of the reins and pointed in the direction of what you wanted and went and got it, and you had a big hill to climb, a big hurdle to get over.
Yeah.
But before we do that, we normally start with a song. What at the moment? What's your go-to song? You know, what's your song that pushes you? Do you think?
My go-to song would probably be I don't know.
Come on, Sash.
Alessia Cara, Scar Too Beautiful.
What? Tell me why that song. What?
Well, I was just thinking, what's a really inspiring song?
Right. What does it inspire you? Do you think?
Because it's all about sort of overcoming stuff that you're struggling with and looking at yourself and going, I'm a beautiful human being.
Right.
So go on, Mitch, sing it.
I don't know the song, but I can make it up. It's like, scars, you're beautiful.
That's great.
Yep.
Anyway, that was sort of it. So just tell me, first off, how did you end up?
Can I talk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just before you do ramble on, Mills, because let's face it, you ramble. Before you, it was your mum that introduced you to us. Is that right?
So my mum did the work first, and then she said, "Yep, you're going to do relationships and you."
Oh, she said you're going to right.
Yeah,
well, I remember
because to do it.
She actually set you up and paid for you to come along.
Yeah,
didn't
for the
you?
first one. Yeah,
she?
Brought me in to meet Mitch.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is unusual. Normally we don't allow that to happen
so.
unless there's an agreement where mummy is paid back, and I think.
Well, I think that's where part of the rest of the story came in. You know, a bit later on, we kind of we stopped that happening, but we'll talk about that in a sec.
Yeah.
But for me, before we actually start, I really love that you're here and that we're actually having this conversation, because for me, I have wanted to talk to you for a long time publicly, so that other people can hear your story.
Yeah.
It's a big thing to be able to tell your story and to be able to tell your journey. And the reason I feel that this is important is because you were so young. Like we met you, you came in as a client when you were 17.
Yeah.
And you were so young, and I just the transformation, I think, has been really huge.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about doing this.
Yeah.
And I think as well, when people are young, you know, for us, we respect the fact that people are impressionable when they're young, and we're impressionable throughout our whole lives. But for us, you know, dealing with someone that was 17 coming in, when we saw the situation that you were in, and the situation your mum was in, and you know, for us, it was about making sure that what we showed you, first off, that you were able to grab it by the reins and run with what was needed to be able to get you out of the situation you were in, which I think you did very, very, very well.
Yep.
So it's especially for parents that are out there listening to this that have young teenagers, or you know, in their mid to late teens, that are going through some stuff. I think that this is a great story and a great example of what is possible when people are introduced to the correct information that's congruent with life and what life is actually all about, which is what I'd like to make sure we cover today when we talk with you.
Yeah. I've been nodding my head, but I've remembered that we're actually on a podcast, so no one can actually hear my head nodding. Yeah. So, Sash, let's start by you telling some of your story. So you tell us your version and tell us how you got to us. Tell us, just tell us. Talk to us.
So where I was when I came to you guys, I was struggling a lot with mental health. I was clinically diagnosed with a whole myriad of things, including social phobia, bipolar.
Can I just ask, when did that start? When did some of those diagnoses start? When were they happening?
Probably year 10. I was fresh out of year 12 when I met you guys.
Yeah.
So probably about year 9, year 10, that sort of started. And I'd had a long sort of process of working on that stuff on my own, and I just wasn't really I was helped, and I met some lovely people, and that really helped me, but I wasn't really getting anywhere. I couldn't pick up the phone and call someone. I couldn't have a face-to-face conversation. I couldn't just have a normal conversation with someone because I just was debilitated by it.
Right.
So do you feel you were debilitated, well, by the labels, or do you feel you were actually debilitated by what they were, when they were saying you got social phobias and you got these things going? Were they real for you? Was that actually happening?
It felt very real for me at the time. I definitely had some really real stories running at the time.
Right.
And like you say, my innermost dominant thought was ruling me.
Right.
And I just, that was absolutely ruling everything that I did.
Right.
So what can you give us an example, just so that we've got a picture of how things work? Can you give us an example of what that looked like in everyday life and what sort of things were going on in your mind?
Yeah, one of the examples I've been sort of thinking about a lot was actually on one of your courses. And I had to pick up the phone and make a call. And I remember writing down a script, and I was calling my auntie, and I wrote down word for word what I was going to say. And someone said to me, "Why can't you just make the call?" And I just can't. Like, I can't. And they were like, "Isn't she your family?" I was like, "Yeah," but I just couldn't pick up the phone and make that call without knowing exactly what I was going to say.
Right.
Because I would stutter, or I would panic, or I would just be like, blah, 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 and then hang up the phone.
Right.
It was just too much for me to think of myself being able to do that.
Right.
I guess I didn't back myself with that confidence.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you say back yourself with the confidence, what you're saying is the concept or the thought of speaking to someone, even a family member, was overloading you.
Yeah.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
And so therefore you were trying to map it out as to how it would, the best way so you'd get the result that you want, because how you thought you were going to behave on the phone call, you felt it was just going to be meltdown, or was just going to...
Yeah, absolutely. It was just panic. It was just absolutely overloaded.
And how did it show up in your body?
I would shake. I had a verbal stutter, I think.
Right.
I remember that a lot about you, because you were very... There was a jitteriness. It was almost like...
Yeah, I was consistently shaking. I had a verbal stutter. I would talk really, really fast and people couldn't understand me, which I still do sometimes, but it's... I
have the same thing. I talk really fast on stage and people go, "What the fuck did he just say?"
I just wouldn't step up and do things.
Any other examples you can give us about what it was like?
I guess I was always sort of the kid that was like in the background. But it was more so like as a kid, I was very naturally happy just being on my own. I could be with people, but I was never the outgoing kid. But when I was with people when I was very young, I could relate and I could talk, and I was always very good at articulating myself. But when I was in this point, I just couldn't.
So what do you think? What do you think triggered it? What do you think? If looking back, knowing what you know now, I mean, how do you go from a kid that's actually really confident and able to talk and okay to be with themselves to click, something happens and you can't?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it was like stepping stones. So it wasn't click and I can't. It was like there were small stepping stones. Like there was a lot of stuff in my childhood at primary school. I was bullied quite a bit.
Right.
That sort of whittled me down a little bit, but I was still all right. And then I went to high school and it was new. And everything was different. And then I think sort of around, year 9-ish, my mood started to drop. So I was just sad, lethargic, didn't really know what I was going to do with life. And I think I was just pretty lost. And then other changes came in. Like I realised my sexuality, realised I was gay.
Yeah.
My friendship group at the time, before I told them, didn't agree with it. Like they verbally would speak out against homosexuality and this and that.
Right. How old were you when that happened?
I came out 7 years ago now. So
and you're
I was probably it was right at the start
15-ish, were you?
It would have been 16.
And when did you first work out?
I first worked it out when my feelings I had for my best friend wasn't the same, and everyone was like, "Oh, you guys are gay together," and we're like, nah. And then one day we were like,
yeah.
Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess when it was worse for me mental health wise was also when I was coming out.
So that's 14, 15.
Yeah, so that was about it would have been about 16.
Right. Had you any inclination prior to that? I mean, I remember years ago watching, somebody was going around in the streets of New York or something, asking people, do you think people are born gay or they choose to be gay?
Yeah.
And people were going, no, they choose to be gay. And then, they're asked, okay, well, when did you choose to be heterosexual?
Yeah.
So, that's when I was, getting our heads around the concept that people are born gay.
Yeah.
It's and so. A lot of the people that I've spoke to over the years, they knew from when they were very young, but it was really when, they started to develop sexually, that they were like, whoa, I'm not, this is not how it is. I'm not the standard.
Yeah.
Is that when it happened for you or?
Yeah, well, I didn't know at the time, the inclinations that
Yep.
I'd seen, I look back now and I was like, oh yeah, I was gay. I could see that I was at 8 years old. Mum would want to dress me up in pretty dresses and wear all this stuff, and I'd be like, no.
I want to wear a tracksuit and trainers.
Yeah.
And I want to hang out on BMXs.
Let me go do the sport that my mum put me in dancing, and I was like, no, let me go play hockey like my brother. And she was like,
Right.
but yeah, mum was always really supportive of that. So I look back now, and I was like, yeah, I was definitely gay. But at the time, I was like, no, this is new, this is different.
Yeah.
And I remember there was about 3 weeks where I just didn't go to school because I couldn't, because my best friends, they had no idea.
Right.
But my anxiety was so high that I was, they'd be talking about other people in our year group that were gay.
Right.
And my anxiety was just so high that I was like, well, I know this about myself. They're not going to like this. Like, how do I bridge that gap? But I'm very lucky in the sense that when I did come out, it was full circle. They were like, yeah, got around me.
Yeah.
Like, there was no negativity.
Great.
They all just,
It was probably cool.
yeah, I asked them to ask, I said, I want you guys to ask me all the questions now because I don't want questions asked behind my back. And they just it was in a group chat and it was just questions. And I was like, yeah,
that's
cool.
Right.
And then, it was very different from then on.
So do you think the anxiety had been triggered before that? Or that played a contribution, that contributed?
I think the peak of my anxiety was a lot of that. I think there was anxious tendencies before that, but that came down to sort of my self-worth. So in terms of mental health, my mood and self-worth dropped before the anxiety came along.
Right.
But the most debilitating part of it for me was the anxiety.
Right.
So what happened? You said that you were diagnosed with a whole bunch of stuff. So tell me what happened. Like, did you then get taken to doctors, psychs? What happened?
Yeah,
Tell us
so
about that.
I was diagnosed, and then I remember year 11 and 12 is where it sort of kicked off, and there was a good 6 months where I was seeing 3 specialists a week.
Really?
Between a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and then I had a counsellor.
Right.
And who was doing that? The school?
I had a
Mum,
school
Dad?
counsellor, but Mum was funding it. Mum was taking me to just see. She was like, I
probably
don't
like,
know about this. What can
how
I do?
how do I deal?
Yeah.
So she's a mum trying to help a daughter.
Yeah.
Because she's really worried about her daughter.
Yeah.
Did Mum know you were gay at that stage?
When that all started, no. At the moment I realised I was gay, I told my mum, and she went. She walked into her room. I was like, I'm in love with my best friend, and she went, okay. Turned and walked out of the room, and then came back probably 2 hours later.
Yeah.
And
said, "Is your best
sat
friend's
down on the
name
bed and was
Nigel?"
like, blah, 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 blah. No, she knew who it was, and was just like, tell me everything, and we just sat and chatted. And I'm convinced that she turned, walked away, did an equilibration, and came back.
Oh,
Really?
She hasn't said that to me, but I'm convinced because it was just like, okay, I'm going to go process this now. And then she came back and was like, all right.
Let's talk.
And it was really, really good in that sense.
I love that.
So yeah, she was really trying to support me through everything. I was doing 3 different things a week, so I was barely at school in year 12, and the school really catered to me.
Did that?
I had to fight for it, but I ended up getting a setup where I was doing 4 units so I could pass my WACE, because I was told not to do WACE, but I was like, no, I'm doing WACE, I'm getting into uni, I'm doing this. So I did 4 units, and then 1 day a week I taught kids sport. But that meant that because I was only doing 4 units, I had 2 hours every day that I could put my appointments in.
Right.
So I was at school for half days really in year 12. I was hospitalised. Was originally diagnosed ADHD, put on a whole heap of medication.
How much medication?
I was on about, it was dexamphetamine, so I was on about 60 milligrams a day, which is 6 tablets a day, on top of my antidepressants.
And how much antidepressants were you on?
3 or 4 tablets a day at this point. I ended up, when I met you guys, I was on 15 and a half tablets a day.
Jesus.
It's full on.
Yeah, so I went...
How many milligrams was that? Just so people get their heads around.
Oh, God, I wouldn't have a clue. It was a lot.
Right, so you'd be close to 200?
I'll be over.
Well over 300?
Probably about 500 milligrams of a mix of different things.
And so is it one doctor giving you all this medication, or is it?
Yeah, so what happened is this medication's not working. It's actually sending me way off the other end. I'm not sleeping, this and that. So I got taken off those and put on another medication that basically 2 weeks at school I was falling asleep in class every day. So then...
Do you think that they just didn't know how to help? I don't get why... I don't know if you know, Mitch, but I don't get why if somebody's dealing with something and they're anxious and then there's more medications and then more medications and then more medications. It's like, at what point does they go, this isn't working?
Yeah, and I actually did that. I went, this isn't working, get me an appointment. And I sat in front of this doctor at the time, which I didn't particularly get along with it. I didn't feel listened to.
You see, I don't even know whether that's legal.
What do you mean? Well... It must be, surely.
Well, but I mean, physiologically,
it
physiologically, you know, what's happening with your liver, what's happening with your kidneys, what's happening with your body.
So much, yeah. So I was probably on probably a quarter of the medication or a third of the medication was medicating the side effects of the other medication.
Really?
To mediate it. Yeah, so I went in and I went, this isn't working, fix my medication. I can't be on this medication. He put me in hospital 2 weeks before my WACE exams.
Wow.
And this isn't me saying Big Pharma's bad, psychiatrists are bad. This is just part of my experience that didn't go well.
Yeah.
Hospital really helped me. I did a lot of work in there.
So when you say hospital, are you talking a psych hospital? Are you talking...
Yeah, so it wasn't like... Greylands. It was like
Perth Clinic?
Perth Clinic, yeah.
Is that where you were?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
They did some great work in there.
Really, really, really great work.
Yeah.
I had groups every day. It was really, really good for me.
Yeah.
And then I ended up, he had to go away. So I came out of hospital and I went, no, I need a new doctor. This isn't working.
So how long had you had this doctor?
Probably about 6 months.
So how long had that... So with that, just so I get my head around the medication... So within a 6 month period, he had you on 500 milligrams of...
Probably at that point, I went from probably 100 milligrams a day, and then when I was in hospital, it was tripled, so it was about 300 milligrams.
My God.
And then of the same medication, I was asked to take off, and I was like, okay, this is not working. I went to the psych he referred me to, and she's brilliant. I was very highly medicated by the end of it, but she made it perfect for what I needed and to get me through the start of uni and get me through WACE exams. And it was basically, we made a cocktail of different small amounts of different medications and tampered and played with them until they worked for me. And I can say that they probably saved my life.
Right.
So let's talk about that, Sasha.
Yeah.
So that's about the time that you met us, right?
So you've gone from 15 to 17.
Yeah.
Within that time period, by the time you meet us...
End of 17,
End
right?
of 17.
And this is not 2017, you were 17 years old is what we're talking about.
2015. And so by the time we hit that stage, you're very heavily medicated.
Yes.
Now, your mum had done some work with us, and I remember your mum originally coming to do the work because she wanted to help you.
Yep.
But I was like, no, you have to lead the way. You have to show your daughter, you have to get it, and if you get it, then she'll see there's light at the end of the tunnel, and then she will lead and she will get it.
Yeah.
Now, can I just ask a question? You were also quite the athlete within that time period, is that right? What role did exercise movement play over that 2 year period from 15 to 17? Did it play a role?
It was my escape. It was my safe place.
Right.
Always has been. There was a period where it sort of got lost in everything that was going on for me.
Right.
But it was always, as soon as I stepped on that pitch, nothing else mattered.
Right. And then you were competing as what?
In year 12, I was a goalkeeper for hockey, playing. I debuted in Premier level.
Right.
But I was playing about less in year 12, but in year 11 I was playing for about 3 teams. So I
Right.
was playing about 13 hours a week of hockey.
Right. As an escape?
As a
Or
refuge, I guess.
refuge.
But it was always just my happy place. So,
Right.
yeah, regardless of whatever was going on, I could always step onto that pitch and all I had to
Right.
do was stop that ball, and I knew how to do that. So,
Right.
yeah.
I love that. There's so much in that statement. All I
Yeah.
had to do was stop that ball, and I knew how to do that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about stopping the ball.
Well, yeah. So your mum then obviously got you along to see us.
Yes.
Tell us about that. What happened?
Yeah, so she was like, I'd seen the change in mum. I'd seen a lot of growth in mum from the courses.
Yeah.
But I was still a teenager. I was like, oh, why are you getting me to do this? And she was like, you're going to come in, you're going to meet this guy named Mitch. Like, he's just going to have a chat. I was like, okay. And I remember I came in and we talked about ADHD, and you sort of talked to me about
Yeah.
your concept of ADHD and how it has to do with values and value systems.
Yeah.
And at the time I went, nah, not this. But then about a year later I went, oh my God, like, I get that. I then, did RMY.
Yeah.
And I remember being so hesitant. I was like, I've got no idea what I'm walking into on these 3 days.
Yeah.
I've got just, no idea. And I remember the last day of RMY, we were talking about LIG, and I was like, I'm going to hit the ground running doing LIG. And I think I did all 3 in the first year.
Yeah. Just so people know, Sash, we'll just explain what LIG is. LIG is one of the events that we run called Letting It Go, where we get a person to basically do an equilibration, and equilibration is basically where you shift a person's innermost dominating thought. So we teach them how to shift that innermost dominating thought,
So you balance out your lopsided perceptions.
Yeah, to balance out your lopsided perceptions. As you said earlier, it was the thing that was driving you, but was driving you the wrong direction in life. So once you shift that innermost dominating thought, in LIG, we then work out the direction of your life, work out what your top 3 values are, get you to build a vision and a mission for your life. And that's what that event is about. That's why it's so potent and why it works so well for you. Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember, because I think your mum organised payment for RMY and letting it go because of your age.
Yes.
But then when it was time to book in for the last one, student teacher
Yeah, so
program.
I think I paid for letting it go, but it was through my mum's payment plan.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then, so I paid for the last 2 and she paid for
Yeah.
the first one.
But I remember when you came in to do that for the last one, because your mum arranged it. So the arrangement was through her. You know, you paid her back rather than paying us. But I remember with the last one that we discussed that it was important that you came through and you did it yourself. And I remember you not being able to commit to it straight away, but you said to us that you would you're going to be coming back and you were going to do
because
it.
it's less, we measure the analytics of people that say that, and less than 2% of the people actually come back.
Yeah.
Once they've said that, less than 2% of people actually come back and do it.
Yeah.
And then what was that, maybe a month later or something?
Yeah.
2 months later?
I was like, I can't put it
she's
on
back.
paper just yet. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do this. And then I remember walking in the doors about a month, would have been a month later.
About a month later, yeah.
And I was like, yep, got it. I'm sorted it.
Well, we
And
were,
then
very,
that
we
was
were very
that.
proud of you being able to do
Yeah.
that, because you were taking your growth seriously, and obviously because it was working. So what was happening?
So I know that I think we can come back to some of it in a minute, but I know that you came and you did the 3 in a row and you did them quite quickly. Firstly, because I know that a big transformation happened after all of that. But then
the biggest transformation was after.
But then what happened in that time? And the reason I say a different transformation happened after is because in that time when you were attending relationships and you were highly medicated.
Yes.
Tell me about your experience, about what you realised that made you continue and made you know that there was something in this.
I remember it was very hard for me to feel during RMY, and I was very, very anxious the whole time. But I remember it was very hard for me to get my moment. The brick wall was really strong. It was really hard to get through that. And I remember sitting down with Mitch afterwards and being like, my moment wasn't massive, but I'd had an equilibration prior, and like I got it through vicariously because when I'd done the last equilibration, I hadn't been medicated.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't get that tear. I couldn't create that tear on a chemical level.
Right.
But I still got the whole process, and it was still like I walked out of that and I remember like for weeks it was like bang, 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 like just realization after realization.
Yeah, that dominoing effect where you have one pop and then neurologically your brain just starts to automatically rewire, click, and you start to see things differently, and you start to, like, because we say, you know, you either have this huge big kaboom, poof, or else, you know, it goes click and then it goes click, and then the next day it goes click, 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 and then everything just at its own pace starts to fall into place.
Yeah.
Where, you know, we start to realize, oh, this is what's going on in the world. This is why that's happening. This is why, you know, so we go from being asleep, because, you know, I say it all the time, I look around and people are just asleep, to that process of waking up is either a big, huge awakening, or it's a process of over a short period of time, a series of things falling into place. And they're not, you know, they're not even a conscious awakening. They're a subconscious awakening that affects the conscious mind.
Yeah.
Is that how it was for you?
Yeah, it was like I was full of electricity. Like when I walked out, I walked in there with no energy, no motivation. Like, oh, I really don't want to do this.
Yep.
And then suddenly everything in my life was alive again.
Yeah.
And it was just, I remember like I'd walk into a room. I remember walking to the kitchen one day, and my partner at the time was in the house. I like went to get something, and I've walked into her family's kitchen, and I've just gone like yelled through the house. I was like, whoa. And she's like come running.
Right.
She's like, what just happened? And like it was just like a massive like click. I can't remember what it was, but I just remember that moment of like realization of whatever had done. It was like pieces were put together.
Right.
And that just happened consistently for months throughout the year.
So then after you did the last one, what happened for you then?
After the last one, so I remember sitting down with you in the last one, and you'd pulled me aside and said, look, I didn't know any of this stuff had been going on for you. Like, I can see that you just can't feel. Like, I very naturally didn't express emotion and and suppress my emotion. And then when I was medicated, it was a chemical layer on top of that which stopped me chemically doing that. And you said, you got to get off this medication. I said, yeah, I think I decided that yesterday. And we talked about how we could do it. And I remember talking about it, and I walked out the next day on the 9th of December, walked into my psychiatrist's office and dropped 7 medications.
By you speaking to her?
Yeah, I spoke to her, and she knew me, like she trusted me. Yeah. We had a very good rapport. We'd talk about the personal development that I've been doing, and she could see the shift. And she went, yeah, let's do it.
Right.
And
I think it's, you know, it's an important point there of what you made, that you walked, it's your psychiatrist, sorry, your psychiatrist that says, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the point is different actually, because I think what you're trying to say is that you don't do it on your own. Like, there's no way you do this on your own. No. You make sure that the person that's helped you get on it helps you get off it.
Yeah.
But I think even bigger was that it was Sasha that made that choice. It wasn't somebody else saying, oh, you should do this, and waiting for somebody else to make that choice. That you made the choice, said, I'm coming off. Yeah. And then as a result of that, she followed your lead.
Yes.
And that, I think that's really big. So,
I think what's important there is you have to know. Like, you didn't go in and go, do you think I can? Should we? Yeah. You're like, no, I know now. This is what we're going to do. And I want you to help me 100%. To win and work off this. So your certainty had outweighed your previous doubt. And now you are in a point of where you're in your own power, and you're you know, instead of self-medicating, you're now self-regulating and reducing medication so that you can get congruent with what you know you want in your life.
Yeah.
So then?
It was a long process. I had to find, because when you lose one addiction or dependence, you have to replace it with another one.
Yeah.
So I had to go through for each different medication what it was doing and find a different thing.
A higher quality way
of coping. So I'd come off an antidepressant and then find something that would lift me up.
Right.
So
can you give us an example?
I've got this long list of behavioural antidepressants, they're called.
Right.
And it's things in my life that I can do when I'm not feeling too good.
Yeah.
Like I'll go
Behaviours
out and
you
I'll
can do.
ride a horse. I'll sit in my car and I'll go for a drive down the beach and just sing.
Right.
Or I'll go on a hockey field and just do that.
Yeah.
Or I'll go boxing, or depending on whatever emotion it is, I can go to this list and be like, yep, I need something cool. A lot of that is personal development. Like I'll go and I'll do an equilibration if I'm stuck. Or meditate, or just go through old PD
So
books
this is
or
like
new
your
PD.
it's your go-to list.
It's my go-to list.
Like how
yeah.
we do the
Yeah.
addictions list of the
Yeah.
other things that you can do to
Yeah.
get that hit.
Same hit.
You're just choosing a higher quality way.
Yeah.
And then if you've got such a long list of it, then you can choose what's appropriate for that particular moment.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it was a way I'd build those into my life as I took away the medication. I then, because I was on a stimulant medication, I was worried about going back to uni because I was second year uni at this point. And I was worried about focus. And I remember someone I lined up with on SDP, Bev, was doing Juice Plus.
Yeah.
She's like, I got something for you that will help you with your energy and your focus and this and that. So I'd had talk with her. So when I came off that particular medication, which was what scared me the most, I replaced it with Juice Plus. And I found that, so now I'm caffeine free, and instead of a coffee in the morning, or if I'm tired during the day, I'll take 2 or 4 berry blend.
Yeah.
And it's like I've had a cup of coffee without the negative side effects. So when I needed to take those medications, I would just take a natural substitute.
Yeah.
So for me, it was very important at the start to get my diet right and to get my exercise right. So I think to do that as well, I was keto. I was keto for about a year.
Do you want to explain what that is?
So it's a low carb, high fat diet.
Right.
But basically what happens with keto is when you're in ketosis, which means you burned off all the carbs in your body, you go into a ketosis or a ketogenic state, and you're functioning on your second energy system, which burns fat.
Right.
And when you're doing that, there's no brain fog. It's like clear.
Yeah, clarity.
So my focus and my energy lifted by doing that diet. So I used that as a way of supplementing as well as through Juice Plus. Then the last one I came off, second last one I came off was my sleeping medication. So I had to essentially, because I'd been on it for 2-3 years, dependent on it to sleep, I had to essentially relearn how to sleep.
Right.
So that took me a long time. There was a good 3 weeks there where I just didn't sleep. I just couldn't get to sleep. And I had to learn different mechanisms. Like for a while I needed someone to play with my hair to put me to sleep. And that became my new sleeping tablet.
Yeah.
I learnt progressive muscle relaxation. I learnt lucid dreaming techniques. I've got a long list of different techniques I can try if ever I can't get to sleep. And I just had to go through them until I got to sleep. And then eventually my body clock started to understand, okay, we can do this, we can regulate, and we can do that. So, yeah, it was just learning different ways of doing that. The final medication I came off was, 2nd of December the following year, the day before I came on my second STP. Right. Because I had to be off medications for that STP. Yeah. Well, I wanted to be. That was my personal goal. And that was, I was on lithium, which you can't, once you go on lithium, you can't come off within 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I'd been on it for about a year and a half. And what it causes in someone diagnosed bipolar is called rapid cycling. So rather than cycling on a clinical bipolar level, it'll be about 3-week swings or different for each people. You'd cycle quicker. So it basically sped up the process of a bipolar brain swinging, which is the theory behind the side effect of the medication. So that was the hardest to come off. So I had to spread that out because I needed my body to have the time to prepare to come off that without triggering anything, any negative side effects. And then, I came off that within just a week, under a year from when I started. And I remember walking into SDP and Mitch Mills was like, show me your hands. And I like put my hands out, and she's like, I was like shaking all the time because of the side effect of some of my medications. And my hands were just dead flat.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah, like I did it.
I think I had a tear or two because I remember her coming in and saying that that she had spent the year just weaning herself with the help of her, obviously, with the psychiatrist.
I had a good support team around me.
To wean herself off, and that she was finally off all of the medication, and considering the cocktail of medication you were on the year before. And what I love about that, Sash, is the fact that at such a young age that you not only had it in you to do that, but that you just kept going. Do you know what I mean? You made that commitment. You stuck to that commitment, and you just drove through. And to me, that's priceless. I just don't. I think that. What would you say, right? What would you say was the top contributing factors of you being able to do that?
It was learning a new way of thinking and a new way of being. And, like, I definitely rewired my brain through all the work that I've done, and I'm still doing it to this day.
Yeah.
So it was learning that it didn't have to be that way, and it was learning that there was actually a different way I could exist or understand the world, and finding my purpose, which was... the coolest part of it.
Because we spoke today on the phone. You're one of my private clients, Session. We spoke today on the phone, and I said to you, I said, so what are we doing? And you spoke to me about your vision and your mission, and I said to you, I can really feel that this is what you're here to do, Sasha. It's become very clear to you that this is your pursuit. This is what you're here to do.
Yep.
And we're going to dig one well, dig it deep, and dig it well. Sasha, if you were, there's kids, parents, mums, dads with teenagers out there at the moment that are, worried. They're listening to this because they're concerned about their kids, and most people, like your mum, would run straight to the medical fraternity. They would. That's because that's where everybody goes, and we know now that when when the medical fraternity is dealing with trauma, they're all over it. They know exactly what they're doing. But when it comes to mental health and mental well-being, it seems that they're poking a stick in the bush. They don't really have a grip on what they're doing. They don't know they're getting the results. It's not measurable. Yeah. What would you say to a parent that has a teenager out there that they're concerned about?
I would say there's always a way.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of those parents feel stuck and they've got no idea where to go.
Yeah.
Just like my mum, she'd never seen mental health before.
Yeah.
I never had it close to her, so she had no idea where to go. But there's always, I'm not saying don't go to the medical.
Yeah.
Because the medical got me through. I still see a psychologist.
Yeah.
There's always, everything's tools in a toolkit.
Yeah.
But I think there's a holistic alternative way that you can treat things and deal with things.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means going within and doing the work.
Yeah.
And that's hard work, but at the end of it, it's so different.
Yeah.
If me 5 years ago looked at me now, they'd be like, it's just so different.
You never would have imagined, hey?
No.
Not in that way.
No.
So, and what do you do now?
I'm a mentor and support worker.
Cool. Yeah. So it's kind of giving you your vision and your mission and everything, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember I got what I was here to do in LIG.
Yeah.
Like, I just got it. I was like, yep, I'm gonna help people live inspired lives and do what they want to do with their life.
Yeah.
And help them work through those roadblocks. And that came from, I always wanted to understand the world and understand myself, and I think everyone deserves that. So I got that, I knew that, but from then on it's just been like bang, 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 and it's just refining and refining and refining, where it's now I'm like, yeah, this is it.
Beautiful.
This is my path.
So before we finish up, can you summarise for me what's the one thing that you're most grateful for from your experience?
Ooh, there's so much. The way or the understanding I was able to get about myself and about the world. I was always a self-aware child, but it gave me a way to put that self-awareness into something. And that gave me a thirst for it. So now I can't stop. Like even if someone was like, stop PD, I was like, I just can't. I chemically, physically cannot stop myself. So I guess it gave me a mechanism to do what I've always wanted to do, which is learn about myself and understand myself and use that to help people.
Because I think people in some way give up on that. You know, we're very connected when we're young. I have 3 very young children that are very connected to the universe and to life and to energy and to understanding what it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, I do everything that I can to get them to trust that, you know, to trust, don't, you know, we're pumped that this is a mechanistic reality that we live in, and it's actually not. It's quite a mystical reality that we live in, and to believe in your mysticism and to believe in your gifts and to believe in life and energy and what the universe is about. And I think that that's an important message for people.
Yeah, I think my journey hasn't been, I've grown but I've never changed as a person. I think I've shedded some of the parts of myself that were holding me back, and I've gone back to that childlike state. I've gone back to seeing the world the way a child would, with my experience behind me, but I've been able to shed the stuff that was holding me back from being who I truly was, and now I'm who I truly am, and I'm in that state just with more experience and more learning.
Beautiful.
Can I just say that it is you're one of my heroes, Sasha, because it's a massive, massive thing to do what you did, and I just take my hat off to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
That's
Sasha,
okay.
thanks for coming down
me.
here today. We really, really appreciate it, and we know that this will reach so many mums and dads and young people, and your message is cool. We love it. Thanks for
We love
being
you.
part of this.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy. If you found this information inspiring, make sure you subscribe and tune in to the next Dorothy and the Dealer podcast.